Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Pride Across Texas. We are so glad to have you here. I hope everybody's enjoying some great networking in the Chamber Networking Cafe. There's going to be more. Don't worry, we've got plenty after we finish up what is going to be a robust program and I promise you, a fantastic speaker, actually, that we're bringing to you as part of Pride Across Texas. I want to just mention my name is Tammy Wallace. I am a co-founder and the president and CEO of the Greater Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm going to introduce my other colleagues here shortly. But with that, I want to say a huge thank you to our presenting sponsor, Arca Continental Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages. Arca Continental Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages, you're going to hear from Suzanne in just a little bit. They have been an amazing supporter. They are our 2021-2022 Pride Across Texas presenting sponsor. And I want to say that they have invested in all four chambers. So they are truly committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. They are committed to the LGBTQ plus community. And we are excited to grow what is a new partnership with the organization to incredible levels as we move forward. So thank you again. And you're going to hear from Suzanne shortly. So with that, I just want to mention to everybody, add your contact information into the chat box and make sure that you've captured that. When you're networking and connecting with people, make sure you capture that as well. You can literally chat at the tables as well as the broader event. So make sure that you do that this afternoon and include your pronouns if they're not in your profile. Couple of guidelines for the event, simply to connect with each other. I mean, that's what Pride Across Texas is about. We're going to offer this great learning opportunity for you today, for those aspiring authors particularly, or maybe someone you know, but it is also about connection, creating connection with our businesses and key stakeholders across the state of Texas. We're going to ask you to not talk over each other in the networking cafe. Make sure everybody has a chance to introduce themselves. And then with that, ask questions, interact with each other. And then, of course, I always say the fabulous, and I say fabulous because I work with her every day. Maureen is here. If you have any tech issues, we want you to put those in the chat box and she'll help out. And then if someone is asking you for something specifically, follow up. Remember, networking is two parts. One, it's the connection. Two, it's the follow-up. So make sure that you share and you follow up with folks via email. And I know everybody's going to do this. It goes without saying, but be kind, be respectful, and be professional, and really have fun. So with that, I want to just say a little bit about the Texas LGBTQ Chambers of Commerce. I'm not going to read everything that you see on screen, but it is four amazing chambers. We have come together. We started a number of years ago working in the advocacy space to advocate in Austin for the issues that our members care about, business issues and issues that are near and dear to the LGBTQ plus community. With that, we've grown that to this event that you're seeing today, Pride Across Texas. We've grown that to an LGBTBE roundtable, and we continue to add more programming that we're looking at for 2022. So stay tuned for that. And we have some amazing leaders that are running chambers in Texas. First up, Tina Cannon. She's the CEO and president of the Austin LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Of course, myself, Tammy Wallace. I run the Greater Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Tony Vetta, who is the president and CEO of the North Texas LGBT Chamber of Commerce. And last but not least, Melissa Ochoa, who is the president of the board for the San Antonio LGBT Chamber of Commerce. So an amazing, amazing group of people. But we want to see who's with us today when it comes to our audience. So we're going to put up a couple of questions for some polls here. So Maureen is going to put the first one up. And let me know, Maureen, when you got that going. Yep. So where are you located? Where are you joining us from? What's your home chamber? All right. Got some results coming up here. Oh, yep. It looks like North Texas leading the way here. Yep. North Texas. Okay. All right. I think we've got all the votes. Very good. Very good. And then our next poll question is, are you LGBTB certified? Give us a yes or a no. All right. Okay. Got a All right, we've got some certified members with us today. And I would say if you are interested in learning more about the LGBTBE certification, that is, we partner with the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce on that certification. We encourage you to reach out to your home chamber to learn more, and your certification fee is waived if you're a member of your local chamber. So thank you for completing the polls for us. Next up here, I believe we're going to introduce, flip slides for me there. Yep, I want to make sure that's up. I want to introduce Suzanne Brady. She is the Vice President and General Manager, South Texas Market Unit for Arca Continental Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages. But before Suzanne comes on, I thought I could read her formal bio and all that, and I want her to just share a little bit about herself. But I want to say that since we started this partnership with Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages, Suzanne has been a champion. She is leading in the DEI space. She is committed to LGBTQ inclusion across the company and supporting our community. And Suzanne, we're so grateful. We appreciate you and looking forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Tammy. Well, I feel the love with that intro. So thank you so much for that. And I'd like to just introduce the companies. A lot of folks here may not be aware of Arca Continental or Coke Southwest. And I've got a lot of colleagues that have joined us today, and we're all looking forward to hearing from Jenn. But Arca Continental is the parent company of Coke Southwest, and we've been in operation since 2017 with Arca. Now, we operate in 5 countries at Arca, but here locally, we operate in Texas, Oklahoma, and Eastern New Mexico. And just a couple of factoids about Arca Continental. We are the 3rd largest Coca-Cola bottler in the world. And Arca was the first Mexican bottler in 1936. So that's over 95 years. So quite impressive tradition. And also we have over 63,000 heroes at our company. And lastly, I'd like to share with you just a couple of comments around diversity and inclusion for Coca-Cola Southwest and Arca. We are really committed to economic opportunities, especially job creation on a very wide scale. And we also support the broadest array of economic participation, including the Chamber of Commerce's. And we love to focus on small business, women, and also minority-owned enterprises, and of course, LGBT. And then lastly, community focus. We want to be a value partner, and we want to be at the forefront of businesses that make decisions locally that impact the community in a positive way. And we support numerous nonprofit organizations that are focused on education, sustainability, and social justice. And Tammy, that's really what I wanted to share with the group, just a little history about our company. And I'm certainly very, very thankful to be a part of Arca and Coke Southwest. We have a great team, and we're just starting the D&I journey. As you know, Tammy, we've had a lot of conversations about that, and we appreciate your support. And we're excited to be a part of all the chambers in Texas. So thank you, Tammy.
Thank you, Suzanne. And we're so appreciative for all support and looking forward to, again, growing this relationship. We love organizations that are coming to us and saying, we're just getting started, but truly looking to partner and make a difference. And you are making a tremendous difference for our chamber in Houston and all of the chambers across Texas. So we appreciate that. With that, I want to turn it over to my fearless colleague, Tony Vetta, who runs the North Texas LGBT Chamber. Tony.
Thank you, Tammy. I have the great honor of introducing our featured speaker today, Jenn T. Grace. I have known Jenn, my goodness, it's been at least 15 years, if not longer. I first met Jenn at an NGLCC conference when she was running the Connecticut LGBT Chamber of Commerce. I mean, it's like dark ages, so long ago. And she's just accomplished so much since then, and I'm just thrilled that she's with us. So let me give the real introduction to her. So Jenn is an award-winning author, nationally recognized speaker, and savvy publishing strategist. She's the founder of Publish Your Purpose, the acclaimed hybrid publishing company that gives first-time authors the secrets to getting their books written, finding an eager audience, and marking their place in the publishing world. Publish Your Purpose is a certified B Corporation. And for those of you who don't know, B Corporations are a new kind of business that balances purpose and profit. And they're legally required to consider the impact of their decisions on their workers, customers, suppliers, community, and environment. So it's really a community of leaders driving a global movement of people using business as a force for good. So that is just amazing, and I'm so not surprised that that's the kind of business that Jenn has. Jenn leads authors through every aspect of writing, editing, and publishing, so their book strategically aligns with their business objectives. She helps authors articulate their purpose and fulfill their mission. She has published the books of nearly 100 business owners, entrepreneurs, speakers, and memoirists. So more diverse stories can exist in the world, and her authors can make a positive impact and achieve the recognition and success they deserve. She is the author of 6 books, including her memoir, House on Fire. She's been featured in Forbes, Huffington Post, The Wall Street Journal, and CNBC. She lives in Connecticut with her family, and she enjoys being outside with her son, where they kayak and admire the birds and the wonderful nature around them. So that is Jenn T. Grace. And if I had to sum this up, I'd say she is just an awesome and amazing person. And every time I spend a few minutes with her, I feel a little more energized. So thank you for that, Jenn, and take it away.
Thank you, Tony. Yeah, we go back a good 15 years. I was thinking about that before today. We met in 2006, which does feel like a lifetime ago. So yes, and I want to just also acknowledge I saw the LGBTBE that the number was pretty low for those who were certified. And so I've been certified for 13 years, and I cannot emphasize how much of a game changer it is for your business. So as someone who previously ran a chamber and tried to emphasize the importance of this, I feel like I would be remiss to not help all of you out by just mentioning that, because it's really a really big deal. So happy to share any information about that offline if anyone is really on the fence about it. All right, now on to what I should be talking about, which is around books. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully we have no issues with this. All right. Can we do it? Yes. Okay. I think thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, good. So today I want to talk to you about pushing through our fears and doubts to tell our stories. And obviously, this is Pride Across Texas, so there's a big emphasis on the LGBTQ side of things. As an LGBTBE myself, and as I mentioned, for 13 years, my network is so heavily saturated within the LGBT space. And so because of that, about 65% of the authors that we serve are LGBTQ themselves. And then anyone who is not directly LGBTQ, they are, and they would identify as allies to our community. So I just want to kind of share that as a little bit of a frame for some of the information that I want to share with you. Because when Tony had asked if I would be open to having a conversation with all of you about kind of how do we tell our story, there's one direction I could have gone in, which was very tactical and practical of, here's how to write an introduction, here's how to pull out some nuggets of information out of, from yourself and what you might want to share. But what I know for a fact from myself personally, having written, 6 books, and then also, working with over 200 authors at this point, what I see the most is it's the fear that we have, and it's the self-doubt that we have that really are the things that stand in the way the most. So what I'm going to share with you is applicable to the written word. It will be applicable to spoken word. And I'm going to give you some resources and tools that will translate into other areas of your life as well. So you're welcome to take it, take it in whatever direction. Also, I know that this is being recorded and I am on vacation in the middle of the mountains. And so my Wi-Fi might be a little bit spotty and I apologize for that. So if it goes out and I don't know it and there's a problem, I will happily record something to provide to all of you to send out so that way everybody got their, got what they came for. Okay, so let me get into some assumptions. I think we all know making assumptions is not a good thing, but here's some assumptions I'm going to make based on a lot of data points that I have personally. So when I'm working with someone who has a desire to share their story, there's a number of things that come up that people are the most afraid of. And this is applicable for any type of person. So I love that we have emojis. So if you would like to kind of thumbs up as, if things are kind of making sense to you. I don't know if there's a frown option if it doesn't make sense, but just thumbs up if what I'm saying is kind of speaking to you. So you know that you have a story to share, but you might be afraid that no one will read it, or maybe no one will listen to it, that maybe your story's not compelling enough. Perhaps you feel like you might hurt friends or family by telling it and or writing it. This is a huge one that I work with folks on a regular basis, is that we want to be mindful of how what we share impacts others, because we want to be impacting people, in a positive way, but sometimes we have to share some really gory details of those around us who've hurt us. And so because of that, that can certainly be a challenge. So you might be in another position where you might be ready to tell your story. You've kind of worked through some of these self-limiting beliefs and whatnot, and you might just be in a place where you have absolutely no idea what you're doing or where you will start to either, again, write your story or maybe speak your story in the form of, some TED Talk type of style. You may be in a place where you just don't know what people want to hear. This is a very common thing too, especially for those of you, the commonality here is that we're either employed by any one of the members of this chamber, or you are an employer and a business owner yourself. So, you could be writing a nonfiction book, or maybe you're writing a memoir. And either direction, you might not know what people actually want to hear from you. And then finally, you might be listening to me talk for the next 20 minutes or so because you're just curious. And so wherever you fall in this, I promise you there's going to be some good takeaways is my hope here. So we're going to cover things in a two-prong approach. We're going to talk about the why. So the why, the importance of why you should tell your story, especially from an LGBTQ lens. And then we are also going to go into mindset. So how do we get into the right mindset to be ready to tell our story? And this is the piece that will be applicable into other aspects of your life, not just related to your book itself or your speech. And a quick warning, if you have not already picked up on this, I talk fast. I am from the Northeast. I am, even in the Northeast, I'm a very fast talker. So I apologize in advance. I know that this is being broadcast to a Facebook or a YouTube channel, and I think Facebook Live. So if necessary, go back and rewind. I think YouTube has a slow down feature. So I will try to slow down, but I just wanted to warn you in advance. All right, so Tony already read my bio, so I don't need to kind of get into all of this, but I feel like actually what I feel most proud of in being in this group of people and having known Tammy, Lisa, and Tony for a very long time, all three of them, that just my love and adoration for the chamber world in general is really, I feel like, not on the slide, but really something that I'm very, very proud of that I don't get a chance to talk about too often because I feel like it's kind of my old life, and that makes me sad sometimes. But anyway, I'm happy to be here today. Okay, so I created a workbook for you for anybody who is interested in actually applying what I'm going to tell you. And it's a Google document, so you don't have to give me your email address. It's not some marketing salesy type of thing. It's just it's a Google Doc that you can go download. You can save it as a document. You can download it as a PDF, whatever your preference is. But I am going to cover some good information here that I want you to have a place to kind of put if you do decide to do anything with our conversation today. So I mentioned that we'll start with why. And so if you would like to use the chat, I would love, 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 love that. I am able to multitask and see in the chat and my slide. So I would love to know kind of what brought you here would be a great question. You're like, what piqued your interest about listening to a conversation like this? because really we want to be thinking about, why do you want to tell your story? Why do we want to tell our stories? Why is that important? So here's some questions to consider. And anyone who feels like using the chat and kind of popping in there, please, the more interaction, the better. Although if you're shy, I can make do. All right. So Cowboy Rick is saying starting a new business. Oh, I love it. Yes. When having our thought leadership in the form of a book is a huge benefit to those of us who are business owners. So we want to ask ourselves, why are we doing this? So why are, like, if you have embarked on either speaking or writing a book at this point, why are you doing this? It's not always the easiest of tasks. So we want to ask ourselves why. So we want to anchor ourselves in that purpose and why we're doing something, because it makes the further down the road a lot easier when we can go back and remember, oh, that's why I'm doing this. And most often the why is much bigger than ourselves. So, I'm saying here, why are you writing this book? Preparing for a talk, presentation, why you, right? And I see learning how to write a story can help with public speaking. Life is about experience. I love that. Helping with overall communication skills. Oh yes, when you put your thought leadership into a form of a book, it dramatically improves communication skills, because it really requires you to refine your message. Here are some reasons, or here's probably the most common reasons that I hear. And this might be applicable for you. So by thumbs up emojis, just kind of thumbs up if you agree with any of these reasons, right? So they may include to inspire other people. Maybe you have a big vision of changing the world. You want to help others feel seen or heard, which is one of my biggest reasons why I do anything that I do. To make a leap into a new career or industry. This is a big one. So if you have been doing the same thing for a long time and you're switching industries entirely, putting your thought leadership out in the form of a book and or some kind of good talk, a book really in particular, that can help you leapfrog ahead by a long shot, by really establishing yourself in that new space that you're jumping into. It could be that you're building a consulting practice, or maybe you just want to become a thought leader, right? And so the more books are very much on the rise. A lot of people are putting books out, and there is no saturation point. Everyone has the potential to have a book, because everyone has a story. So if you are, for any of these reasons, I would say, like, go do it. So I want to share just here's a little bit of an exercise. It's not actually part of the workbook, but here's a little bit of an exercise. If you are thinking about sharing your story, one of the best ways to consider, or best things to consider, is to go to a bookstore, whether it's a physical bookstore. Hopefully, number of you chamber members have bookstores as members. Go support them, or go to an online retailer. Bookshop.org is a fantastic organization that supports local independent bookstores, and it's kind of an offset. It's in opposition to Amazon, because there's plenty of people who are not super fans of Amazon. So, just go find books that you like. And what I encourage you to do is just look at a book that speaks to you. You don't have to have any reason, logic, anything for why it speaks to you, but just that it speaks to you. So we want to start with the end in mind. Here are 3 random memoirs that I pulled up, because I know these are all LGBTQ people. And it's just to think about, maybe none of these people inspire you. Maybe all of these people inspire you. It's kind of, could be all over the map, right? And so what we want to think about is, if we can find a book that inspires us, and I grabbed memoirs as an easy example, because nonfiction, the topics range so much. It's a little bit harder to grab some examples, but when we think about it, when we're looking at people who are reflecting back their story, like, I think we can all, many of us can credit Edie Windsor for so much of our lives, right? So how can she not be inspiring? So maybe she's an inspiration to you. And so I want to think about, how do we frame this in terms of our own story? We don't all have to be a Janet Mock, an Ellen Cumming, or an Edie Windsor. We are all our own people and our own stories. We have published a number of LGBTQ memoirs. We have a good amount of them at this point. So I want you to be thinking about what stories have inspired you, what people have inspired you, and then maybe you go and find their book or their TED Talk if they have one. Here's just 3 random books, including my own, because I feel like why not plug my own book in here while I'm at it. But 3 memoirs that we've done, all from LGBTQ people. And again, we have a lot more, But it's just a matter of thinking about how, we might feel like we are a nobody, but guess what? Other people are also, the quote unquote nobodies. We don't all resonate with celebrities. We resonate with one another. And so the more LGBTQ stories that we can put out into the world, the better. All right. So I told you I was going to go fast. This is where the workbook comes in. So talking about mindset, right? So we want to be thinking about what is stopping us. What is stopping you right now from taking whatever next action you need to take to get your story written, your story spoken? Here are a couple of reasons that I am quite familiar with. It is that I am afraid that sharing my story will make me look bad. This is a big one. And I personally went through this when I put my memoir out last year, because my story, there's a lot to it and it's very exposing, and I did it anyway. So I did it as a testament to just kind of show that like anybody can put it out there. And yeah, maybe it makes me look bad to certain people. It's a calculated risk. So I feel like you're going to be fine. People give a lot more kind of grace and leniency than you would actually think, especially in the kind of call out culture that we exist in. There's a lot of kind of grace that authors are provided. I'm not qualified to share my story publicly. I did see a comment in here that said, I'm not a good writer. I know I saw that somewhere. A horrible writer, not even a good writer, horrible writer. Yes. Okay. Yep. Tina. So yes, you know what? Not every author is a writer, for the record. An author means that you have put your thoughts into a book and the book is out. That does not mean that you are a good writer by any means. If you have a strong editorial team, they can do wonders with anything that they are provided. They may not be happy about it, but they are magicians at the end of the day. So you do not have to be a good writer. So I'm just going to I'm going to knock that one out for everybody, because I'm sure you're not the only one that thinks that. And I'm afraid that no one cares what I have to say. This is also a big one, right? So what happens is that we have these reasons for why we feel the way we do, and we have all of this self-doubt and imposter syndrome and all of these things. And what happens is that it's because often we are not around the right people. We are around people who want to drag us down rather than lift us up. So what my exercise for all of you is, and I think hang on, I'm out of order. Hold on. All right, we're just going to pretend that wasn't there. So we want to surround ourselves with people that believe in us. And I have 3 ways or 3 types of people that I want you to think about who is in your life that fills these roles. So these are the 3 people that you need in your corner. You need somebody that can be a strategist. This is somebody that can help you see the big picture, see the path forward, see your potential, see all of the things as it relates to, in my lens, book related, someone who really understands how you can construct this for maximum impact. So you want to have somebody who's a strategist. You also want to have someone who's a therapist. This could be an actual therapist, of which I'm sure there are many among the chamber members who are here. So please support your local chamber. So, a therapist, and it could be a best friend. It could be a family member that you're close to. It could be your spouse. It could be a licensed therapist, but somebody who is there to listen to you when you are having a low moment. Like when you are really feeling down, you need somebody who's going to be there to be an empathetic ear and listen, rather than point out your flaws and why you shouldn't be doing this thing to begin with. The last person we need is a cheerleader. We need someone who is going to be that person who is amping you up at every turn in this opportunity, because it is not like, this is an emotional roller coaster that you're going to be in. So, if you're preparing for a TED Talk, that I feel like that is an equally horrifying roller coaster as is writing a book. And so you need people there that are going to amp you up and be there to support you at all times. So this is your magic combination that I have in a bartender. Yes, Tina, perfect. Yes, got to have someone pouring the drinks. So, we want to have these people who are here to really be there for you as you need them. And a bud tender. Oh, I love it. Yes, all of the tenders, bring them on. So there is a workbook, as I mentioned. There are spaces for 5 of these people in each. You might do this inventory and realize, wow, I actually don't have anybody that fills these roles. And that might just be a moment to kind of think, how might I be able to engage with other people who are going to be supportive of me? All right. And then the last little piece of this is managing the unexpected. So this happens with every big goal we try to do in life. This never happens. We go into this and we think about, I am going to go do this great thing, but guess what? My child interrupted me. My spouse interrupted me. Work called me at midnight. I can't do the thing I'm supposed to be doing. I'm trying to find time to write. I can't do any of that. So I encourage you to think about, like, in computer programming language, of if this, then that type of statements. So what you can do is manage your own expectations well in advance. So when you have something happen, you have a plan in place for what you're going to do about it to fix it. So instead of having, you're drowning your sorrows over someone throwing you off your game, you have a plan to how to get back in your game very quickly. So here's just two examples of, if I'm interrupted by my family, then I will schedule my writing time for when they are asleep, or I will leave the house to write. Right? So something as simple as that. And you can swap this out for any goal possible. Again, we're talking about, authorship here and thought leadership. You can swap it out with anything. And for those working on memoirs, inevitably you will be triggered. So if I'm triggered by something in my past, then I will talk to a friend about it or schedule time with my therapist. This is why we need those people in our lives supporting us. So these are just two examples that are the most common that I've seen. I encourage you to explore it. The workbook has, 5 or 6 spaces, I think, to kind of write in your own. We all have different nuances to our lives. So, take it for what you will. And then the last kind of little piece of this, and, I'm trying to make sure I'm staying on time here, is giving yourself permission to write a shitty first draft, whether that is your book, whether that is your talk, whether you were going to the golf course and trying to learn how to golf. Give yourself permission to just be real shitty at the start, because we all have to start somewhere. And so for those of us who are, feeling insecure about our writing, especially in that vein, we just have to be generous with ourselves. Like, just give yourself permission. And the second that you are granting yourself permission, it is amazing what comes from this. So I will be the grantor of the permission. I wish I had a wand as a prop here. I don't. I'm in a cabin in the woods. But, I grant all of you permission to write that really crappy first draft. Because I promise you, when you just say, you know what, it doesn't matter who sees this, I'm just going to roll with it. I promise you it's going to make a huge difference, especially when we think about and I will tell you, from having published just shy of 100 books at this point, when we look at the first draft that comes in, and when we look at the book that is actually published on the other side, they are often very, very different. And that is a good thing for all of you, because it means that there's so many sets of eyes that look at it before it gets to the finish line, that any areas that you're hesitant about or you're reluctant about will be rectified in that process. It's not like you're publishing a journal that you wrote for yourself. And I think a lot of times we kind of think that that's what happens. So my action steps for you for moving forward are: 1, to go download the workbook. Again, there's no marketing play here. I'm not collecting email addresses. Just go get the workbook. I promise you it'll help. Identify your fears. And this one could be a tricky one. So those, find a buddy. Do this in like a workshop format. You don't have to do this alone. Find your 3 people and your community to, find that strategist, that therapist, and that cheerleader. Even if you have one person who fills all 3 of the roles, that's a great starting point. At least you have one person. And, I do run into people who don't have anybody that's supportive of what they're up to. And so that's when you start to seek out a writing group, seek out, a group. Maybe there's subgroups from, I'm not entirely sure of all the programming that all of the chambers do, but I'm confident, chambers of commerce exist for networking purposes. And so find a way to plug into your local chamber if you are not doing so already. And that's where you're going to be able to find your community. At the very least, we have our values rooted in LGBTQ equality, right? So at the very least, you're going to find people who are awesome and will support you. And then make a plan to manage the unexpected, as I had mentioned just a couple minutes ago. So that, I believe, was just over 20 minutes. And so if you would like to chat with me, you're more than welcome to. I'm putting my email address up here. You can schedule time with me. I'm happy to connect with anybody who's thinking about, writing their book. I truly will talk to anybody, which, drives my business coach crazy, but I will continue to do it because it makes me feel good. And I especially want to be supportive of our fellow LGBT business owners and those who support us. And so if you're interested in kind of hearing about what other people, what other people's stories are and what they've kind of struggled with, you're welcome to check out my podcast. There's probably a number of familiar names you might recognize if you're kind of in the LGBT space already. All right, questions. Hopefully I didn't go too fast.
No, I listen fast, so it's okay with me.
Good. Well, you know me, so you have an advantage.
So if anybody has questions, I posted this before, please use the Q&A section so it doesn't get lost in all the chat. We do have one question right now. So Jen, should you start with an outline or just really? Okay, should you start with an outline / spine or just vomit info?
Vomiting info is a real good way to approach it. No, it's, I use a word vomit as a phrase frequently. So Tina, you and I are on the same page here. So I wouldn't start with an outline in particular. I would actually start before an outline, and I would do a mind map. So if you're not familiar with a mind map, just go Google what a mind map looks like. And you're welcome to email me, and I'm happy to provide one. But basically, you just kind of start throwing different ideas in all directions on a big piece of paper. Use a whiteboard, use those big Post-it papers, and then basically you just start to see like, oh crap, I got a lot going on, and there's a lot of pieces to work with. And then you can start to drill down and put them into buckets, which then can create a table of contents and an outline.
Excellent. Lisa, if you're still on, will you post the link, the publishyourpurpose.com/pride? Will you put that in the chat so people can get it? Because I have a question here about it.
Yes, I will.
Thank you. There's a question from my board chair, so let's give him a good answer. Is it possible to write more than one book at a time?
It is, and I'm actually working with somebody right now that I don't want to encourage others, but she's working on 6 different books at once.
Oh my God.
It is not an easy task, for the record, and I know this is broadcasting live, so I'll keep her anonymous, but it's not an easy task. I would say 2 at once, yes, as long as they're not related. So that way you can kind of think about your mindset and be able to kind of treat them as 2 completely different projects, because when we have things that are too similar, we start to get confused as to what goes where, and it starts to get a little bit clunky.
Does it help if you have multiple personalities? Will that make it easier to write multiple books at the same time?
I haven't thought about that, but I think you might be right. Yes.
Okay. All right. Robert Emery, I hope you see, actually it's here in the Q&A, the publishyourpurpose.com/pride that you asked for. Tammy is asking, do you use a platform for writing or a good old pen and paper?
Oh, Tammy, so there's a program. It is called Scrivener, which I will type into the chat because its spelling is confusing for people. It is a writing program that if you're working with any volume of content, whether you're using it for a book or not, maybe you're writing a white paper or something, if you're putting together an annual anything for the chamber, perhaps, it's an amazing tool for bringing in a lot of different content. So you can bring in PowerPoint presentations, PDFs, images, text, and it makes the whole process significantly easier because once you get a Word document that is of any great length of 50, 60, 70 pages, it becomes very cumbersome to make edits easily by dragging and dropping text, because inevitably you drop a sentence in the wrong place and then you have to undo 23 times and then you undid what you wrote, and it's a whole problem. So I would recommend Scrivener, and we have a 20% discount for anybody that's interested. I'll put it in there too. It's just Publish Purpose. It's not an affiliate link or anything. It's just I'm always promoting this company, and they let us use their code.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. Let's see what we have here. Cowboy Rick. How might this apply to, I'm not going to put that other in part, how this might apply to someone just starting a new business in a new field or career?
So what I experience is that there's two typical types of authors. There's the person who has been doing the same thing for a really long time, and everybody is like, where is your book? And so they kind of get to this position where they're forced to write a book because everybody they know has asked them, where is the book? And then there's the other type of person where if you are entering a new field or a new career, it is very competitive. You have to it's social media, which is a whole other monster unto its own. And when you're competing with a lot of people and you are the new person on the block in that field, you can get railroaded very quickly. And so when you come into the field and you come out with a book that shares your unique vantage point around your thought leadership as it relates to that field, that is going to jump you much further ahead than if you just kind of sit and, just kind of like wait to, maybe, because this is what happens, right? The imposter syndrome comes up and says, well, I'm new in this industry. Who am I to start writing a book about an industry that I've been in for 3 months? It doesn't matter. Everyone else does it. So you should be doing it too, because you're really competing with people who are putting themselves out there. And books, by far and large, stand out significantly more than having a really beautiful website, for example. So it's worth the investment in doing it, even though it can be a time investment, really, but it's totally worth it. Hopefully that
Jen, I'm gonna follow up because Cowboy Rick asked to follow up, and I'm gonna phrase it a little differently. But he's asking about, rather than book, about just doing blog posts, and I'm curious if blog posts are a good way to start writing your story and gathering your thoughts.
They absolutely are. That is a great way to do it. And that's actually how I wrote. So I wrote my first book that was based off of blogs. And so I repurposed them and repackaged them. And then my second book that I wrote, I actually wrote the blogs in a very specific order to then be able to just grab the whole thing and create a book. So if you do a mind mapping exercise into some kind of outline and then you blog through that outline, then you're in great shape. And honestly, the question I get all the time, and I had somebody ask me this on Tuesday, is, well, if I put all my content out there in a blog, then am I somehow like cannibalizing the sales of a book? And listen, if somebody wants to go through the time and energy and hassle to skim everything you have written on your website, then they don't have to pay the $20. Like, good for them. But nobody is going to do that, is my experience.
So I'm so glad this question is being asked, because, occasionally I have to, as the president of the chamber, you have to write things for newsletters or whatever. And I suffer from a little writer's block. So the question is, do you have any tips for clearing writer's block or mental fog?
So with writer's block, it really comes down to just getting in the habit of doing it even when nothing is coming out. So I like to use, it's called the Pomodoro Technique. It's basically setting a timer for 25 minutes, taking a 5-minute break, and then going back and doing it again and taking a 5-minute break. So you kind of take up a 60-minute period of time. And so in a timed writing session, you might feel prolific and get 500 words of 1,500 words out, or you might be sitting there and angry and you only got 3 words out. But what happens is that if we keep going back to that routine over and over again, eventually the block starts to clear. Or I would say get up and go do something. That is something that inevitably, especially something physical, go for a walk, go for a run, go for a swim, do something, because there's something about something activates in our body and the connection to our mind is when we get really stuck. If we're like, all right, I'm going to go a quick lap around the block, and then I'm just going to come back in. And typically that will clear it as well. But that's a short-term fix. The longer-term fix is the commitment to just keep showing up every single day, or whatever your schedule is.
Now, we have a question here from Tina, and I could have sworn as I saw her name pop up, it was going to be answering the last question and just suggesting alcohol, but that's not what it says. She's curious about revenue platforms for authors to consider.
So revenue platforms could be defined in a number of ways. So I'm not 100% what you mean by that, but when it comes to authorship, so a lot of times people think that Amazon is the only way, and it's not. It is obviously one of the bigger platforms, or is the biggest platform by a long shot, but there are 40,000 plus other online retailers that sell books. And so when we have a wide distribution, so there's in the publishing world, it's, going narrow with just Amazon, which you can do, where your book is literally just on Amazon, or you go wide and you make your book available in bookstores, in libraries, colleges and universities. And so from a revenue standpoint, if you are writing a nonfiction book and you can make the connection for how a college professor might use your book in their curriculum, that is where a lot of money because you just need one professor to say, yes, I will add this to my curriculum. And then that professor teaches 400 students in a semester. Every semester you get that recurring sales of that thing. So, it's definitely, there's a whole marketing strategy behind it that we work with our authors on of how to do this. So we have a lot of authors that are selling in colleges specifically because it's not an easy way, because it takes a lot of work. But, once you get the right in, you're in great shape. So that's the type of stuff I would be thinking about in terms of diversifying our revenue models, because so often we just think of Amazon.
Okay. Well, very good. I think that is all of our Q and all of our A. Any last words from anyone? I guess not. Well, Jenn, thank you very much. I hope if you have the time that you'll stay with us and participate in our networking cafe. And I'm going to turn it over to Tina to tell you all about it. No, I'm not going to turn it over to Tina. She's shaking her head no.
You're turning it over to me.
Okay. Well, there you go.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
That's all right, Tony. That's all right. Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you, Jenn, for being on our panel today. We appreciate your insight on what you've talked about today. We are getting ready for our networking cafe. Just a few things about our networking cafe. When you're in there, feel free to move from table to table. You don't need to stay in one table. Give yourself a 30-second your elevator pitch and just introduce yourself. Say something about your business, and that way everybody gets to meeting each other. Switch to another table and then do the same thing, so that this way you can make as many connections as you possibly can. I know that in the past, when we've had Pride Across Texas, we've had a lot of connections, and a lot of those connections are still connected with each other. So there's a lot of opportunity there. If you happen to have any questions or any issues, feel free to look for one of the chamber leaders. We will be on one of the tables as well, and we can help you out. The cafe will be open until 6 p.m. So looking at the time, it's going to be 5 o'clock right now. You're going to have almost probably about 50 minutes to network with each other. So feel free to talk about your business and so forth in doing that. So with that said, I will be the one turning it over to Tina. And Tina will talk to you a little bit about closing remarks, and then we'll get started with our networking cafe. All right, Tina, it's all yours.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much. Jenn, fantastic information. Thanks for taking all of my crazy questions. I figure if I'm going to be a writer, I'm going to be like an Ernest Hemingway kind of writer. I'm going to hold up with my cats and my booze, and who knows what I'll kick out. So thank you very much, Jenn, for inspiring us. So the Networking Cafe, we want to make sure that we thank our huge sponsors, Arca Continental Coca-Cola, who have been superbly intentional about their sponsorship and their engagement with the LGBT chambers in our community. So thank you very much, Arca Continental Coca-Cola. Suzanne, thank you so much for that. We are hoping that you guys will help us out. Give us your suggestions for what you want to hear from on the next statewide LGBT Pride Across Texas event. In the interim, of course, we urge you to join your local chamber if you haven't. And if you're doing business across the state, go ahead and join your other local chambers and share in all of that information. We'll get together again for our next Pride Across Texas in November, but don't fear. If you want to get back together again, you can join us in October for our LGBTB Roundtable event. If those are letters that you don't know, you should probably attend that one and find out how you can engage your business as a certified LGBT-owned company and work with large companies like Arca Coca-Cola on procurement opportunities. All right, so our cafe is going to start here in a second. Mingle. Like Melissa said, this is the best way that you can network and mingle without catching COVID. Enjoy the cafe, everybody. We'll see you on the backside.